So because the patterns show up in every time frame, technical analysis turns the market into an unending stream of opportunities to enrich ourselves. These patterns that the mathematical formulas identify show up in every time frame, from the smallest to the largest. And as a result, if we learn how to think about these patterns or edges appropriately, it will actually turn the market into an unending stream to enrich ourselves. But not on a trade-by-trade basis. But not on a trade-by-trade basis, but rather as a percentage over a series of trades. This is big, guys. This is it right here. This is the holy grail of technical analysis right here, right now. Your technical indicators will turn the market into an unending stream of opportunity to enrich yourself, but not on a trade-by-trade basis. But rather as a percentage over a series of trades. That means you have to learn how to think in probabilities. You may understand the concept of probabilities. It doesn't mean that you can think that way. I've worked with traders. In fact, one guy came to one of my workshops many years ago, a hedge fund manager, reasonably successful. You know, let's say reasonably because he made, I don't know, 10 to 18% a year. But his indicators, if he had followed them the way, the way they were planned to be followed, he could have made anywhere from 60 to 70% a year. A little frustrated, came to a workshop, and then, some consultations afterwards. And one particular situation where he said, he put in a trade he'd been watching for months, finally got to his price level. He put the trade on, then put a stop in the market, and the market started approaching his stop, and, he got out of the trade early. The market didn't even hit a stop. He got out of the trade early, and then it just just fell to pieces because he was short. And in his direction, he wasn't in the trade. And he would have been someone who would have said that he understood the nature of probabilities because he majored in it in college. But he did not do the sufficient amount of work to train his mind to think in probabilities at a functional level. There's a huge difference. You can't take it for granted that because you understand the nature of percentages that you can think that way at a functional level. It would be, like you can do, I'll do the analogy to technical analysis to flipping a coin, okay? That if you take an evenly weighted coin and flip it 1,000 times, you've got a large sample size there, right? The pattern that will emerge with each 1,000 flip sample size is a relatively even distribution between heads and tails. Maybe not quite 50-50, but let's say 49.2 and, 49.8 or something, whatever. There might be a little bit of variance, more variance there. But in any case, that will be a pattern. See, that's a pattern. Because it'll happen every single time you flip the coin 1,000 times. But within that 1,000 flip sample size, is there any way, since you're going to get an even distribution between heads and tails, is there any way that you can know for sure which individual flip is going to be heads and which individual flip is going to be tails? No. You could get 10 flips of heads in a row and be absolutely positive the next one's going to be tails. And it could come up heads again. And even though you can have all these streaks of heads and tails, in the end, they're still going to come up 50-50. This is exactly the way technical analysis works. Exactly. When you consider the diversity of the market, with all the different players and all the different agendas from people all over the world, trying to predict what will happen next would be almost equivalent to sitting in front of a slot machine and coming up with some rational reason why you think that the pattern that you're looking for is going to come up on the next push of the button. It wouldn't make a lot of sense, would it? But the reason why we get fooled as traders, and we think of it in not this probabilistic way, is because when we put on a trade, we put on a trade for a reason. See, reasons are important in our lives. Reasons are important. We put on a trade for a reason. And see, the problem is that when the trade works, we just naturally think our reason was right. What I'm trying to do here is help you disconnect any reason that you put on a trade with the reason why it actually moved. Because like I said before, there's almost never a relationship. There's almost never a correlation. And so the next time that reason seems to appear in the market, we're gonna do the same thing, thinking we'll get the same result. And then when we don't, we feel betrayed. And then the next time the reason comes up, we're going to be a little hesitant. We might not put it on at all. We'll try to find additional reasons why this trade will work. When the reality is there isn't any reason you're going to be able to come up with that's going to assure you of anything. Unless the reason you're coming up with is you know the people who are actually going to bid the market up or offer it lower. And they tell you what they're going to do and why. Ultimately, there's only one reason why prices move. And what would that reason be? Come on.
Imbalance of buyers.
Yeah, an imbalance in conviction. That's the only, and what technical analysis does is it finds patterns in that imbalance, okay? Technical analysis finds patterns in the imbalance. Where there's momentum in a direction. It's still not going to tell you what's going to happen next. Technical analysis doesn't, nor can it get into the minds of any particular individual trader who has both the financial and psychological resources to either move prices or defend certain price levels. And traders will defend price levels, by the way. There are dynamic traders who will actually defend a price. Is it reasonable to expect the fixed criteria that make up a mathematical formula to stay consistent with a dynamic event that's in perpetual motion on a trade-by-trade basis? What's the answer to that? Well, what is the answer?
No.
Come on. No! No, it is not reasonable. No, it is not. Especially where that motion is being caused by traders all around the world with differing beliefs, objectives, and agendas. There is no way of determining the intentions of all these traders, yet the typical passive trader trades their methodology as if they are being told what those intentions are. The professionals do not. You guys get that? The typical passive technical trader trades their methodology as if they are being told what their intentions are, whereas the professional does not. And why doesn't the professional? Because the professional understands the underlying dynamics of price movement and that anybody could come into the market at any time to do anything. There was another floor trader that I worked with who executed, traded his own account in the soybean market, but also executed the orders for at the time, one of the biggest soybean producers in the world. There was an Italian firm that actually tried the corner of the soybean market and got thrown off the board of trade. But before that happened, there was many days where, he would call, be in touch with the head traders at the home office, and they're plotting out their strategy. And he told me one day, it's like the whole strategy for that day from the home office traders, the whole strategy was to spank the locals at the Chicago Board of Trade. That was their only purpose that day. They were going to suck the locals into a trade, and they were going to try to wipe them out. So he said, we're going to spank the locals today. Now, your mathematical pattern, okay, you happen to get a buy signal, ends up to be a big winning trade. You think it's because a couple of lines crossed, you know, no matter what it is, you know, whether it's stochastics or wise trade or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It had absolutely nothing to do with the reality of why the prices moved. Nothing. This is the primary characteristic that separates the professional from everyone else. What I just said right here.